There is a particular kind of loss that no one ever sees. It doesn't happen all at once. There's no funeral for it, no phone call in the night, no single moment you could point to later and say, that was when it happened. It arrives quietly, one small surrender at a time. It's the loss that happens every time you say yes with your mouth, while everything inside you is saying no. Every time you swallow the sentence you meant to speak. Every time you make yourself smaller so that someone else can feel comfortable in the room. It hides so well because each surrender is so reasonable. On its own, not one of them looks like a betrayal. It looks like being kind. It looks like keeping the peace. It looks like being the bigger person, the easy one, the one who never makes a fuss. And so you never grieve it, because it never announces itself as a loss at all. It wears the face of a virtue. And then, one ordinary morning, you look up at the life you've built, the people around you, the schedule, the roles you play so well, and you feel something strange. You realize that you are somehow missing from your own life. You are present for everyone and absent from yourself. You have become the most reliable person in every room and a stranger in your own. You can recite what everyone around you needs, wants, and fears, and you could not honestly say what you need. The question sounds almost foolish when you finally ask it. What do I want? And the silence that answers is the loudest thing you have heard in years. Carl Jung spent his entire life studying this exact disappearance. He gave it names, mapped its stages, and understood something most of us never quite put into words, that the deepest betrayals in a human life are not the ones done to us by others. They are the ones we quietly commit against ourselves. He believed that this quiet self-abandonment sits underneath a great deal of the suffering he saw in his consulting room, not dramatic tragedy, but a low, patient ache, a life that works on paper and feels hollow in the chest. He came to see that a person could do everything right by the world's measure and still slowly go missing from their own experience. So before we go any further, sit with one honest question. Where in your life are you saying yes with your mouth and no with your soul? Hold that question gently as we walk through this together. And if this is the kind of quiet truth you come here for, take a moment to subscribe so the next reflection finds its way back to you. To understand self-betrayal, you first have to see it clearly, because it wears such an ordinary face. Self-betrayal is the slow trade you make when you hand over what is true in you in exchange for what is acceptable to others. A little truth for a little approval. Again and again until the exchange becomes invisible. It is rarely a single dramatic decision. It is 1,000 tiny edits, each one so small you would feel absurd defending it. The opinion softened before it leaves your mouth. The plan abandoned because someone frowned. The dream quietly filed away as unrealistic, when what you really mean is that someone, long ago, made it feel unwelcome. Jung had a name for the face we show the world. He called it the persona. The word comes from the masks that actors once wore on stage, and that origin tells you everything. A persona is not a lie exactly. It's a useful mask. You need one to move through the world. The danger begins when you forget you are wearing it, when the mask stops being something you hold and becomes something you are. A healthy person can put the mask on and take it off. They can be the professional in the meeting and the raw, unpolished human being at home in the dark. The trouble comes when the mask fuses to the face, when there is no longer a private self behind the public one, when you would not know how to be if there were no one there to perform for. Picture an actor so lost in a role that he keeps reciting his lines long after the theater has emptied, performing for rows of seats that hold no one at all. That is what a life of pure persona feels like from the inside. You are still performing beautifully for an audience that left long ago. And the cruelest part is that the world rewards it. People love the version of you that asks for nothing, that never inconveniences anyone, that is endlessly easy to be around. You are praised precisely for the parts of yourself you are quietly erasing. You learn that disappearing has a reward. So you disappear a little more. Every compliment becomes a set of instructions. Be more of this. Show less of that. And because the reward is real, because the approval genuinely feels good, you follow the instructions without ever noticing you were handed them. You are being sculpted gently into someone easier to hold, and you are helping. No one is born this way. You learned it, and you learned it young, for reasons that made complete sense at the time. A small child studies the faces of the adults around it, the way a sailor studies the sky, reading for weather, watching for the first sign of a storm. To a child, love is not a luxury. It is survival. And so the child learns very quickly which parts of itself bring warmth closer and which parts push it away. The child has no power and no exit. It cannot leave, cannot argue, cannot wait for a better year. It has only one tool, and that tool is itself. So it goes to work on the only thing it can control. It shapes itself into whatever keeps the adults close and calm. This is not weakness. It is the oldest intelligence we have. If some feeling of yours once made the people you depended on withdraw, you learned to fold that feeling away, not because you were weak, but because you were wise. It was the most intelligent thing a small, dependent person could do. You edited yourself down to the version that kept the love coming. Maybe it was your anger that emptied the room, so you became gentle past the point of honesty. Maybe it was your sadness that made them uneasy, so you became the cheerful one, the strong one, the one who was always fine. Maybe it was simply your need itself, your wanting, that felt like too much, so you learned to want quietly, or not to want at all. The trouble is that the program keeps running long after the danger has passed. The grown woman still edits herself in every room she enters, scanning for a threat that ended decades ago. The grown man still performs the acceptable self, still braces for a withdrawal that isn't coming anymore. We keep living inside the shape of an old fear, and we mistake that shape for our own nature. We describe the cage so carefully and never notice that the door has been standing open the whole time. We call it our personality. That's just how I am. I've always been the easygoing one. But look closely, and so much of what we call temperament is really an old strategy that outlived its war. A survival plan still running in a life that is no longer in danger. The child who made that plan was brilliant. But you are not that child anymore, and the room you are standing in is not the room where the plan was written. That cage has a cost, even when you can't yet name it. The first sign is usually a strange, low tiredness that sleep never quite fixes. Not the honest tiredness of a hard day's work, but the specific exhaustion of holding a self together that isn't real. It takes an enormous amount of energy to be someone you're not, hour after hour, and that energy has to come from somewhere. It is drawn, quietly, from the same account that was supposed to fund your actual life. So you arrive at your evenings with nothing left. You are too tired for the very things that would restore you, and you cannot understand why, because on paper you did nothing that should exhaust a person this much. The exhaustion isn't from the doing, it's from the pretending underneath the doing. Then comes the resentment, not loud, not obvious. It leaks out sideways, at the wrong people, over the wrong things. You give, and somewhere underneath the giving, a quiet bitterness begins to pool, and you can't understand where it's coming from, because on the surface you are being so good. You snap at the person who least deserves it. You feel a flash of something ugly at someone else's good news. You keep a private ledger no one asked you to keep, tallying everything you've given and everything you're owed. That bitterness is not a character flaw. It is the sound your buried self makes when it has been overruled one time too many. This is where Jung's most piercing insight lands. What we refuse to make conscious in ourselves does not disappear. It goes underground, and from there it runs the show. It shapes the choices we think we're making freely. It arranges our lives from behind a curtain, and when the results arrive, we look at the life we somehow ended up in and we call it fate. We say we have bad luck in love when we have quietly chosen the same unavailable person a dozen times. We say the job just happened to us, when every step toward it was a small act of self-abandonment we refuse to feel. The unlived parts of us do not sit quietly. They write the story from underneath and then hand us the ending as if it fell from the sky. You look around and you realize you've been running a hotel for other people's comfort. Every room arranged for a guest. Every chair turned to face the door, waiting for someone else to arrive and be pleased. And in the whole of it, there is no room left that faces the fire. No room that is simply, quietly yours. Jung understood this territory because he had walked into the dark himself. In 1913, he broke with Sigmund Freud, the man who had been his closest colleague and something like a father to him. The rupture cost him his standing, his certainty, and very nearly his mind. For years afterward, he descended into his own unconscious, night after night, recording what he found in the pages that would later become known as his Red Book. He was not a calm man observing himself from a safe distance. He was frightened. He described a period where he could not be sure he would come back, where the ground of his own reason felt as if it might give way beneath him. And still he went down deliberately, because he had come to believe that the only way out of that darkness was straight through the middle of it. Down there in the dark, he met the parts of himself he had spent a lifetime disowning. He came to call this the shadow. The shadow is not evil. That is the thing almost everyone gets wrong. The shadow is simply everything real about you that you were taught to hide. Your anger, yes, but also your desire, your ambition, your need, your voice. Everything that got you a frown instead of a smile, everything that made the room go cold, it didn't cease to exist when you hid it. It only moved out of sight into the basement of the self, where it kept living a life of its own. And the more respectable the mask on the surface, the more crowded that basement tends to become. And here is the turn that changes everything. All of that exiled energy is not gone, it is only buried. The very aliveness you feel you are missing, the vitality that seems to belong to other people and not to you, has been down there the whole time, waiting in the dark like an ember that never quite went out. Sooner or later, if you let it, that ember begins to catch. This is the secret Jung kept pointing at, the one that turns the whole journey around. The gold is in the shadow. The thing you were most ashamed of, the part you worked hardest to bury, is very often carrying the exact energy your real life requires. The buried anger is your ability to set a boundary. The buried want is your capacity for joy. What you exiled as your worst is holding your most. Jung had a word for the long walk back. He called it individuation. It is the lifelong work of becoming who you actually are, instead of who you were trained to be. It is not about becoming someone new. It is almost the opposite. It is the slow, patient work of becoming who you already were before the editing began. Less a construction than an excavation. You are not adding a better self on top of the old one. You are digging down to the one that was there all along, under all the accommodations. And it does not begin with some dramatic reinvention. It begins impossibly small. It begins the first time you tell a single, quiet truth in a moment where it would have been easier to disappear. A gentle, unhurried no. A preference spoken out loud. One honest sentence offered without apology. You will feel, the first time, that you are doing something dangerous. Your heart will pound over something absurdly small, saying, "Actually, I'd rather not." Saying, "No, that doesn't work for me." The size of the fear will have nothing to do with the size of the moment, because you are not really speaking to the person in front of you. You are speaking, at last, back through all those years, to the room where you first learned to stay quiet. This is why a real boundary is not an act of selfishness. It is an act of devotion. It is the moment you finally decide that the self you abandoned is worth defending. Jung himself built a small stone tower by the water, a place of deep solitude, because he understood that you cannot hear your own voice in a life that is always full of other people's. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is where you get yourself back. He cut the stone by hand. He kept the place without electricity for many years on purpose, so that nothing would drown out the quieter signal he had gone there to hear. He understood something we have almost forgotten, that a self needs somewhere to exist that is not being watched, not being managed, not being performed, a room, a walk, an hour that belongs to no one else. Part of that return is what Jung called withdrawing your projections. All the power you handed to other people to define you, to approve of you, to tell you who you are, you begin, one thread at a time, to draw it gently back home into yourself. For years you have hung your worth on other people's faces, reading your value in their approval, feeling yourself vanish at their disappointment. Withdrawing the projection simply means taking that authority back. Deciding that the final word on who you are will no longer be spoken by anyone but you. And when you do, something you had almost stopped believing in begins to happen. Life starts giving things back. The first thing that returns is your energy. When you are no longer spending it all to maintain a self that isn't real, it comes flooding back, and it can be startling how much of it there is. It's the feeling of a musician who has finally, after years, tuned the instrument and hears the true note ring out clear for the first time. You notice it in ordinary places first. You are less tired for no medical reason anyone can find. Mornings feel less like a weight to be lifted. Something that was clenched for so long that you forgot it was clenched begins quietly to unclench. You had been carrying the cost of the disguise for so long, you had mistaken it for the ordinary weight of being alive. Your relationships change too. Some of them will shake, and a few may not survive because they were built on the version of you that always agreed. But what grows in their place is worth more than anything you lose. Relationships built on who you actually are, where you are known and not merely surrounded, where someone waits for your real answer and actually wants to hear it. It can be frightening at first, this sorting. The people who only ever knew the mask may feel betrayed by the face. Let them go, gently, without a war. Because for every connection that cannot survive your honesty, there is room now for one that could never have reached the old, hidden you at all. You trade a wide circle of people who knew your persona for a smaller one who know you. And slowly, the life itself becomes yours. You walk back into that room you had arranged entirely for guests, and you turn one chair to face the fire. You light the lamp. You set your own book on the seat. You stop running a hotel, and you start, at last, to live somewhere. Because here is the truth that Jung spent his whole life pointing toward. The self you abandoned all those years ago, to keep the peace, to keep the love coming, to keep everyone comfortable, that self is not gone. It was never destroyed. It has only been waiting patiently in a quiet room inside you, holding your unlived life in trust. It did not leave when you stopped listening. It did not take offense and vanish. It simply waited, the way something patient and loyal waits, keeping the lamp lit in a room at the end of the hall, holding everything you set down all those years ago, certain that one day you would come looking for it again. And the day you stop betraying it, the day you finally stop trading yourself away, you walk down the hall toward the warm, open door you were always afraid to reach for. And you find that everything you thought you had lost has only been waiting this entire time for you to come home. The energy, the honesty, the relationships that can hold the whole of you, the strange, quiet dignity of being one person inside and out at last. None of it was ever taken from you. It was only set down in that room for safekeeping until you were ready to carry it again. So let me leave you with the smallest possible beginning. Not a transformation, not a new life overnight. Just one small, true thing you could say tomorrow in a moment where it would be easier to disappear. Say it gently. Say it as yourself. That single sentence is the whole path, and it starts the moment you decide you are worth coming back to. And if these words found something real in you tonight, stay a while. Subscribe and let the next reflection find its way back to you, the same way you are finding your way back to yourself.